Elite Facts presents Mind-Blowing Movie Facts. 18. Die Hard is probably the most famous Bruce Willis film out there, and this action-packed thriller delivers on all levels. The original script actually called for 0 guns to be used because the writer was extremely anti-gun use. So all of these moments wouldn't exist, and John McLane would be sending messages down about having all the katanas. 17. You'd be hard-fixed to find a person who hasn't seen Ghostbusters and loved it. In this scene where they dig up New York City to reach a river of slime, they're approached by some cops, real cops, and the actors just rolled with it. So the animated movements of the characters are taken from real-life actors. 16. Airplane is an iconic comedy film that starred the late great Leslie Nielsen. What is a surprise to all is that Nielsen actually found none of the film's jokes funny. And this wasn't because they weren't funny, it was just because Nielsen didn't get the punchlines. So throughout all the many gags and funny scenes and other obvious hilarity, Nielsen was just doing his job and keeping a completely straight face. 15. In X-Men Days of Future Past, the character Blink is a silent assassin who can teleport to attack her enemies. She has 0 dialogue. It was done intentionally as a direct nod to another famous mute teleporting character from the game Portal. 14. Andy Serkis is well known for his animation acting, playing both Gollum and Caesar from the Planet of the Apes franchise. While trying to stay in character, Serkis found a novel way to do it. He would eat bananas all day while shooting. 13. In Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, there's a scene based in the Hall of Prophecy, a place where wizards and witches alike can see certain futures if they so choose. It all comes crashing down in a destructive battle scene, which makes the following all the more painful. Each of the orbs were created by a single person using old glass-blowing techniques, and it took 2 years for them to do it. 12. Guardians of the Galaxy was the hit of 2014 that didn't take itself too seriously, comprising 5 heroes who saved the galaxy despite being roguish from the very start. One of the surprise hits of the film was its soundtrack title, Awesome Mix Volume 1. It was meant to be a cassette tape given to Star-Lord by his deceased mother. The music from it plays throughout the film, but it actually has a very different origin. The tape was actually a real mix found in the car of Michael Rooker, who also starred in the film. The original actually had DJ intros and outros included, but they were edited out for the movie. 11. Saw has one of the most underrated movie twists of all time, and when you learn of the painstaking lengths they went to reveal it, you might have a newfound respect for it. In the bathroom scene, which took a solid 15 hours to film, Tobin Bell, who played Jigsaw, actually was laying lifeless in the middle throughout the whole thing. This was kept from the 2 other actors throughout. So when you see this face, it's a 100% completely real reaction to the man rising in front of him after playing dead for over half a day. 10. Crime caper based on the 50s movie of the same name, Ocean's 11, stars some of Hollywood's biggest names, one of them being Brad Pitt. If you've seen the movie, you'll know Pitt's character Rusty is always eating something. This was a running joke throughout the 3-film series. But there is no reason for doing this other than they wanted this character to do so. And on the last day of shooting the first film, they pranked him good. The sandwich being eaten here is obviously doused in extra hot sauce. Once the scene finished filming, Pitt spat out the remaining food and finally threw up. 9. Bill Murray is notoriously short-tempered when on set and gets bored pretty quickly. So director Harold Ramis had an idea to shoot all of his characters' most jovial scenes first in order to capture Murray's enthusiasm as the film started out, and then slowly transition the actor's own frustrations into the scenes that required genuine frustration. 8. Probably one of the most lauded acting performances in the history of horror films is when Anthony Hopkins easily became psychotic killer Hannibal Lecter. But in one of the most famous scenes where Lecter describes how he ate a man's brain with a glass of Chianti, he needed coaching on how to pronounce the famous wine, as he'd never heard of it before. 7. Heat is one of the most epic heist films ever made, and it contains one of the strongest casts in a movie ever. Reuniting after their stint in Godfather 2, it was many a fan's dream to see Robert De Niro and Al Pacino working together again. But all was not well. The two refused to star on camera together after a disagreement during Godfather 2. So in the famous diner scene, whenever you see Al Pacino talking to Robert De Niro and the back of their heads are in the shot, it isn't actually the other actor. There were also strict instructions for nobody to cross over the center of the scene, as the end product was superimposed over each other. 6. Most people will recognize Pennywise as the clown from Stephen King's It, the intergalactic demon intent on eating as many humans as it could. The role was played by the excellent Tim Curry, and he did it so well, it's hard to look at a storm drain the same again. The funny thing is, he was afraid of clowns. His phobia ran so deep that he forbade any reflective surfaces on set, even getting one member of the crew sacked for using a makeup mirror. 5. The Wizard of Oz is an all-time classic starring Judy Garland, and along the trip to the land of Oz, the quartet ended up going through a magical forest where the trees are a little bit nasty. Originally the apples were green, but they didn't show up on the old cameras, so they were sprayed red. The only problem was that nobody told Judy Garland, who bit into one and was nearly made ill from it. 4. Rango is a film about an animal community terrorized by a menacing rattlesnake and are overjoyed when new Sheriff Rango comes to save them. It seems like a solid storyline for an animated movie, except it was originally shot and tested as a live-action film. It was during rehearsal when somebody commented that it would be funnier if all the actors were actually animals. 3. Pixar's Ratatouille, the lovable story following Remy the rat as he tries to become a chef, is set in the culinary capital of Paris, France. During research, several animators visited a famous bistro in France solely to release a rat and record the reactions of the customers for their own animations. They were promptly thrown out. 2. Citizen Kane is a film student's delight, with many an opportunity to look into different themes and metaphors. For others, it can be quite a slow watch. The ending to the film is extremely famous, as Kane dies and whispers the words, "Rosebud." Rosebud was the character's sled as a boy, and despite all his wealth and goals, his last memory was of a happy childhood. The thing is, it wasn't meant to be a sled, but a snow globe that Orson Welles had actually been given by his grandmother. The problem was that some clumsy stagehand had smashed it earlier in production. 1. The train scene in Spider-Man 2 was so intense it cost a whopping $150 million to shoot. The film shut down over 20 miles of New York City to do it, bought a subway train that cost nearly $6 million to just blow it up, and was still considered a flop by critics. Thanks for watching another amazing video, folks. Subscribe for more from Elite Facts.